Good. Yeah.
You get all your pictures?
We are having quite the year and bears and they're amazing.
It's better every year.
They really are incredible.
I hear about it like that.
Yeah. I swear I heard a bear. Like below my deck the other morning. And our good flashlight, I couldn't find it, and then John finally got up and gave me the good flashlight, and it was a raccoon with a thing that every time he moved it, it made it sound like you know how bears do that, like puffing thing. And then one morning, it was actually a bear, or it was a raccoon and a possum with a bird feeder that made a noise that sounded like that. And then, let's see, what was the other? Oh, in the middle of the night, we got woken up by this banging and go out on the deck, and the raccoon had gotten the bird feeder down and was trying to get it open, but he was banging it against the glass window. And like John came back to bed and he was like, it's just the raccoon banging the bird feeder against the window. And I was like, well, he can't be doing that. I can't sleep with him doing it. He can have the bird feeder, but he can't be banging it against the glass. We both like get up and John gets these dog weenies that we have for the dog, and he goes out and the raccoon's like, oh, I don't know about you. And John like hands him the weenie, and he takes the weenie and he backs up just so we can get the bird feeder back from him. They know us. Won't let us touch them, but they know who we are. They know we're not gonna like get them. One time, the dog was going crazy. I got up and I turned the lights on, and both of my cats and like 3 possums were on the deck, just like all hanging out, like they looked like deer in headlights, like, oh, you caught us. And they're all just sitting around, like hanging out. And so I like start to run the possums off, and one of them goes down the far end of the deck and goes down by the 4x4. And I leaned over and looked, and it was a raccoon coming up the 4x4. And the raccoon is like, oh shit, because the possum's coming down. And the raccoon he goes like this. He's like, my bad. He like raises a hand. He's like, my bad. And starts backing back down, like going, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah. Hey, how are you? I'm all right.
How are you?
You ready for the startup in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, we're excited. We're rocking and rolling with the market, so. Every Saturday.
Oh, David, there's
You know, whatever, it's fine. I don't know. And she's like, well, you don't know. And so she was like, you just don't, I want like, in order for me, I don't know what it's like. And she's like,
Same.
Good. At some point.
In the right way.
But it's all just boom back on.
Feels better.
Yeah.
Very good.
So. Not really, but they convinced me that it was gonna be terrible, and I was like,
So now you role model how to do it to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Very cool.
But also.
For everybody. Yeah. downtown. Everybody can tell.
I'm here on the call. I just don't think I have a very good signal, so I'm not going to pull my camera up. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep quiet. Can y'all tell me who's in the room?
Yeah, I'll list them off. You want to know?
Yeah,
Chris Cormier. Nancy. John Ryan. Phil, I don't know if she's writing them down or not.
yeah, I'm writing down.
Joe,
Here.
me, here, present,
Present.
roll call. Aaron. Jerry. Harry. And Dakota. And Lou is, I think, on a Zoom in a cubicle. And where's Matt Manley? He's on here first.
Yeah, oh, here he is joining. Oh, so Lou's there in person?
Lou is in the glass room.
Okay. I guess he was sick, so I don't know if he's gonna be coming I'm not sure.
Oh, so he'll probably be on Zoom from the glass room.
Either that, or he might be on the call that Matt's on.
He is still on there.
Okay.
All right. We have a quorum. Yeah, we definitely have a quorum, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just barely. We got 8, so we're good. Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. First, public comment. Is there anyone online? Public comment. If you can use the raise your hand function. Who's Michelle Hoyle?
She's with the police department.
Oh, okay. Hi, Michelle. All right, approval of the agenda. So we can move things, add things, or just approve as.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second. All right, that was Aaron and Nancy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, agenda good. Minutes. Deal. Additions, corrections. December.
Yeah, it was hard to believe it was that long ago, but we had the flooding and then we had the comp plan and then we were away for the conference. So it's been a while.
Okay,
Wow.
Don't seem like that long, but
not, well, we've all seen each other, I think.
Yeah.
best I can remember, it looks like it was.
Yeah, I would make a motion to accept them pending any issues and crises.
Need a second.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. New business, comp plan feedback, Matt Manley.
Everybody hear me?
Matt, yeah, make sure you're a
Good.
co-host. Dakota, can you make sure Matt's a co-host? I don't know if I can do that from here.
Yes.
Okay.
Do I need
Oh,
to stop
you're good.
sharing?
No, it's okay. I'll just take it. Okay. All right. Thank you for letting me come and spend some time with you guys. For those of you, we had a gathering where the consultants kind of went through this information with the Downtown Advisory Board. We had, some good conversation. So just to kind of recap, we spent a good bit of time talking about 7th Avenue. Let me back up a little bit. We're doing 5 focus areas that are, these are kind of draft versions of this, would take an area of town that staff worked with the consultants to select and do some conceptual layouts, design, thinking about how an area could reinvent itself or infill in with new development, and kind of capitalize on maybe some momentum that's going on in the marketplace, while also looking to conserve areas and protect neighborhoods, things of that nature. So we have 5 of those focus areas. 2 of them are of particular interest to you guys. We started with 7th Avenue and we spent a good bit of time talking about that, but then we ran out of time. So we've got some time today to look at the one that was labeled as downtown, which is east of downtown. Main Street is over here. And then we've got these updated boards they've been working on, so we can kind of look at what some of the ideas that they're presenting so far and make comments on it. So for 7th Avenue, real quick, there was some comments about making sure there's a residential component to the district, that design guidelines are in place for new construction that fit in with the historic character, building height limitations, preservation of green space with incentivizing height, some case studies from Chattanooga, and then consider the parking challenges. Just real quick, the way this is oriented, they're oriented the same. So this is Maple Street. It's oddly, the building footprint data had Maple Street covered with some expansion of the depot that doesn't exist. So that's confusing, but this is 7th right here. Mud Creek is down here, Oklawaha Greenway down here, Green Meadows to the north, and police station is down here. So hopefully that gets you oriented. If we want to add some additional thoughts, I thought it'd be helpful to look at this one. You can see the building footprints are shown of existing buildings. And then they're showing how some new additions, new buildings could be placed in here. And they're primarily focusing those infill opportunities on properties that are currently underutilized. So that's where they're kind of focusing. And then so you see some very specific intentional form, very close to the road, with opportunities for parking in the rear, kind of screened from view. You see, very little change to the north so far. Looks like they have identified, some of these other underutilized properties, but don't have anything planned as of yet. They're showing really some protection of these of this single family district right here. I think there's some opportunities for investment, but making some intentional efforts to protect these neighborhoods from gentrification has been part of the conversation. And it looks like they're looking for some maybe some pedestrian connectivity through here as well. So I'll open it up for any additional comments on 7th Avenue, whether it's broad or specific to this focus area. All right, any comments? Everybody understand? Any questions?
What does the green represent?
Green,
That lime green area on the,
yeah, they're looking to conserve some areas, so they've got this little green space that's kind of between the two parts of 64, and then this has got cell tower on it, if I'm thinking correctly. So they're showing that as remaining undeveloped. And then here along in the floodplain, there's some existing buildings, but they're showing it as being conserved going
And
forward.
the underutilized properties, they're thinking residential or commercial on Seventh, those, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mixed use is what they're conveying through that, the red kind of buildings. So multi-story with mixed use component, and there will be perspective renderings as part of this. Let's see, they've got some examples of different types of mixed use development, what it could look like over here. So if there's a particular look presented on in any of these examples, we can just kind of drag it over or draw something over on 7th Avenue that says, hey, this would be a good, we like this, continue this look, that kind of thing.
Have there been any conversations with those property owners?
On 7th Avenue,
Yeah. Those red sites?
the red sites, not specific intentional. This is more conceptual. We haven't done like door to door to get their specific feedback. They've obviously we've done a lot of outreach and welcomed input throughout the process. So
What are you looking for from us today?
if you have any ideas, thoughts, questions, problems, like it, don't like it, need more information, any type of feedback.
I need to study it more than, I mean,
It's pretty high level right
It's-
now. Seeing them. Meeting potatoes are.
which we do have it now in our email. Correct? Concept board?
Yeah, yes, you have a link to this. Now, the feedback for this is wrapping up. Staff feedback was finished on Friday, and there's really kind of an extension to get additional feedback from you guys on this. Now, there will be, obviously, once they have finished draft materials later into late May, June, July, that whole time frame, June and July primarily will be draft review time period before it goes for adoption. So there'll be downtown master plan component that is presented to the public at the end of May. It'll go to planning board in June, and then it'll go to city council in July just for some consideration. But then they would not consider it for adoption until the first week of August. So you've got all of June and July to be, making looking at the final product and making comments.
Some of the things that you mentioned earlier sounds familiar of like, we want to avoid gentrification with this area. We want to preserve some of the residences, and you said some of the green there too. So the yellow and the green, we're looking at like preservation and maintaining.
Yes.
And then like north of it also. So I mean, I think everybody agrees that we like that. I think Hendersonville just in general wants to conserve more than get excited about wild changes and additions and stuff like that. So if we look at those places, like the spots above it that aren't like the green meadows or whatever, that's, it's not changing at all, like we would start with there. So when you're looking at the red spaces that are underutilized and you clicked over to those pictures, like none of those really seem to fit in with those things. Those are examples. It feels like a Chattanooga or like a Greenville or something like that, those places. But, I think we're all kind of hesitant on just shoehorning in, a condominium that did well in Austin, Texas, or whatever, and just feels out of place with the neighborhood. that's no, so, you know, this is the kind of aesthetic that we have. This is where we should probably start. And, you know, it's a little more rural. It's all these houses were built like 70s-ish. Probably earlier. And I don't think anybody wants to just like, you know, knock them down and put up condominiums.
Is there anything that we need to encourage or discourage with the idea that the streetscape will eventually be moving out along Seventh?
Is, say that again?
Is there anything in terms of development that we would want to either encourage or discourage with the idea that eventually the Seventh Avenue streetscape will be moving into that area?
Well, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of that that's kind of baked in, right? If you're, anytime there's a public improvement of that nature, it's gonna, you know, help revitalize an area or spur new private investment. So they kind of go hand in hand. Does this sum up? I don't know who it was that was speaking, but anything to add to that comment that was made?
Rather than like framing it as like we're hesitant to do this, say that we're like Hendersonville is interested in conservation and in maintaining the
Character,
spirit that we already have.
red.
Yeah.
Guess one question I have is, you were talking about all the levels that it's going to go through and get approved and talked about and discussed and all that. And you're headed down the road of infill projects or product in the red buildings and underutilized areas and stuff. When you say going down the road for discussion and approvals and city council and a lot, does that mean you're making a rule that, let's say somebody comes along with a super duper idea that doesn't match your idea on the map, it doesn't go anymore because you want to follow your map? Or is this just merely a suggestion? It kind of concerns me when you start getting the city council involved to say, this is what we're gonna do. And then all of a sudden, here we are stuck with something, and somebody may have a much better idea than any of us.
Yeah, so in general, the comprehensive plan is a guide. It is not law. It is, you know, based on community feedback, pretty exhaustive effort to get feedback from the community over, you know, all of the fall and continuing through the development of the plan. So we're trying to establish a community vision, so that there is more so than any other plan or any other effort really to get this much community back, community input. So the comprehensive plan built on community feedback does serve as a guide for a 10-year period. It is ultimately up to city council to implement, whether it be through establishing new zoning districts or approving a rezoning, whatever it may be. That implementation could look, could take shape in different ways. Could be investing in infrastructure, but all those decisions are ultimately made by city council. And so all those decisions are still left to be made, but they will, as one point of reference, look to the comprehensive plan for guidance in making those decisions. They do not have to adhere to the plan. Specifically for these focus groups, this is basically trying to take some of that vision and take some of the feedback from the community and put it into a little more illustrative, right? So the other, you know, product is this map. This is the kind of a future land use map or character area map this is very broad scale. So these colors represent different character areas which are described here. And those of you who are at the open house are familiar with all of this. So you can kind of review and see, all right, well, mixed use commercial is this kind of hot pink. And so you can see where these nodes of mixed use commercial are placed to try and create walkable nodes at kind of key intersections along corridors to re-envision our commercial corridors. So that's the broad level. I mean, if you zoom in on that, what might that look like? And that's what these focus areas are. They're an opportunity to zoom in on a specific area of town and say, all right, this is what that may look like under a very long-term build-out scenario. So it's just a concept to provide a little more perspective and a frame of reference.
And it could potentially, if it's items or building requests or anything that are in this land use plan, or it's in the zoning for it, it could make the type of things that Chris is asking about easier to happen. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say so. Right now, this area is zone C2, which has like a 30-foot front setback. And so that's kind of one of the most obvious things to me is that to implement the plan, we would need to either change the C2 zoning to another zoning district or either rezone the area to another zoning district or change the standards in the C2 zoning district, because this could not be done today. So it would, you're right, it would make certain things feasible if implemented. Whereas, we have this happens pretty regularly where it is, in my opinion, some quality, traditional types of development, people want to do them, bring the buildings up close to the street, put the parking in the rear. And they can't. Our zoning code just won't allow it. So, one thing that we've said all along is, people want to move here. People want to build here. As much as the community may want to resist change, it is, somewhat inevitable. And so it's a matter of what is it going to look like and where is it going to go? And so I think this plan is taking that into account, right? So it's saying people have certain rights. They have zoning. They have rights within the zoning of their property. They have property rights, so they can do certain things with their property. But it also dictates, how far things are going to be set apart from each other, how tall they can be. And the mix of uses that may occur, and even to the design of the buildings to some degree, if you're in certain commercial or mixed use zoning districts. So all those things are now, so then that's the way it is today. If we know we're experiencing growth and demand and pressure, what can this plan do to help guide that pressure so that we're at least getting some quality products out of it?
So as far as feedback from the downtown board for today, is there anything are there any particular one or two things that would be helpful to have for them to provide for today? Or just to take that?
Yeah, I mean, based on what I'm hearing, and we've had a few conversations with this group, it sounds still very broad level. I mean, this is very zoomed in. So maybe continue to think about, some of the information I've shared and, be prepared to, email me some feedback or be prepared to provide some feedback once the draft is completed at the end of May. I'd say maybe in the next, I'd say by Wednesday, end of day, if you want to add some more comments onto the concept board, that would be fine. if that timeframe changes, I don't have a deadline from the consultants, but if they are okay with extending that time, I can convey that to y'all by Jamie. I'll just real quickly give some perspective here. This is Main Street. So this is just off of 7th. 7th's kind of right here. So you have this fifth, is it 4th? Am I confused? 5th Avenue, 4th Avenue, and Maple right here. So this is showing some circulation, showing some redevelopment opportunities east of downtown. It's looking at how to better utilize some of the properties in terms of building placement, and again, bringing the buildings up to the road to create a more walkable environment, much like, you know, we've got a good building footprint here as an example with the mill, gray mill, and
Okay.
screening parking to create a more walkable environment. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just, no, that's, sorry.
It's representing some connectivity, whether you know, the above the mud connection between Yakusta Trail and Okawaha, whether that takes the form of a rail trail or through some city and county property. But you know, mobility and circulation of, you know, potential new development, existing development in and between the Main Street and 7th Avenue. And I would say opportunities for residential development has been what I've mainly heard discussed for this area. To put people in close proximity to, you know, opportunities for employment and shopping, recreation, things of that nature.
Does any of that take into consideration the right of way and the setbacks that the railroad has going through there?
Yeah, I don't know if,
'Cause when you get back closer to, and I know this was the olden days rules, but the railroad's rules ain't changed. When you get close to a depot, it widens up like a lot, hundreds of feet, so that becomes a setback issue, and being able to work stuff around, just asking if anybody thought about that.
yeah, I mean, I think they're showing existing buildings along some of these edges. So I think they're just kind of mimicking some of the existing setback that's there. You know, I know the county has plans for this for a courthouse. I think they're gonna come all the way up as close as they can. I don't know that they're gonna take into account some of our ideas, but so yeah, there'll be things that happen. It's not gonna develop just like this by any means, but if we can influence some of the built environment to be compatible and reflect the community's vision, then that's the goal. So any comments on this? And again, you know, if you want to, you know, I heard some less supportive comments about some of these aesthetic examples. But there is a palette for you to choose from if you think some of these would be more appropriate than others, depending on the different locations. So
like growth and change is coming. Like a bunch of people are interested in Hendersonville, but you know, Hendersonville is really interested in conservation. Like they like it for a reason. You know, everybody likes what we have going here. So when you're asking like, what should we do in the next 20 years? If everybody came back in the next 20 years and everything looked the same, I think everybody would be happy. And I know that that's not like the answer you're looking for, but so if that's like, if we just for a second, like made that a goal, I would lean more towards like investing in the infrastructure, making sure that what we have doesn't crumble. You know, if we're incentivizing people to move in, you know, something like a CVS and a Starbucks would just obliterate the block, you know, it would just completely change irreparably if something like that came in. But like it's kind of run down. I think underutilized is the perfect word because like everybody likes what's there. Like it's run down and it's old, but like everybody likes it. Everybody digs it. And if we fix it up and it changes a whole bunch, you know, like something's gonna be lost with that.
And you're talking about where? Oh, you're not talking about Main Street.
No, I'm talking about what we've been talking about, these properties on Seventh, these red buildings and stuff that they're underutilized, you know, to use the verbiage. Building them up, you know, like if we completely just replace them with something super corporate or, you know, if we're talking about residences, if it's not like single family, like middle income houses, if it's like these $1 million condominiums, like it's just going to obliterate the neighborhood. I think that's the exact opposite of what we want to incentivize. I think that's the opposite of what we want to.
I think so I'm on the same page or your way of thinking. I mean, I see all these designs and everything here and I hear it a lot of times. Everybody wants it to be like somewhere else. And I think what you're saying is Hendersonville has its own character in these particular areas that has its own charm. It may not look like Charleston. It may not look like, I don't know, some of these other places. But I think to your point, that's what everybody looks at and tries to work towards instead of trying to be like something else. Just be like Hendersonville. And, you know, even when you're going to build a brand new building, don't make it to where, okay, we want it to look like this and have the pillars and this, that, because it really doesn't fit in then to the rest of the neighborhood. Just,
yeah, I don't know that this exercise, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. The objective, the goal of this plan is not necessarily to settle on a design standard for the uplift in these underutilized or reutilized facilities. Yes, you got a bunch of thumbnails there for different looks, but are we trying to make that assessment now, or is that something that comes out of the you know, once the guide is put in place as far as utilization, zoning recommendations, blah blah blah.
Great question. So in fact, it is a deliverable of the downtown master plan to provide design guidelines. They would have to be adopted and implemented, but to provide design guidelines for the downtown area. And so this map here shows the boundaries of what's being considered downtown. And so you'll see, you can see the MSD of 7th Avenue here for some context. The Main Street, the historic districts are shown in yellow. Public properties are shown in brown. Then this black outline is the downtown area. And then the goal is to establish some design guidelines for each of these districts within downtown. So you've got a Main Street district, you've got the surrounding downtown district, you've got 7th Avenue, and then you've got what we've been calling Lower Trailhead. You can see Main Street, 7th, downtown, and Lower Trailhead. So again, downtown does not include Main Street, it surrounds Main Street, just for clarity. So these are the boundaries, and those are the different districts within that boundary, and there would be tailored design guidelines for each of those districts. As a starting point, they are starting with height. And so these are the areas, you know, within that boundary, proposed height limits. So right now, everything that's in this hatched area is currently 64 feet. That is the permissible height per zoning. What is being proposed here is this additional portion of what is included in this downtown area. So this is just to the railroad tracks. they're basically saying to expand that 64-foot height limitation. So we're talking about 5 stories to include this area. And then the rest of the area, so 7th Avenue, just south of 64, some of these outer fringes going up, 64 west. This lower trailhead kind of area around Yakusta in the future, above the mud trail, including Greenville Highway and Spartanburg Highway, all that 40 feet, which is 3 stories. So that would actually be a step down for some of the districts in here.
40 feet is how many stories? I should know that.
3.
Okay.
So that's a starting point for the design discussion.
They want to raise it higher than 64?
No, they're saying the height.
64.
Everything to 64?
No, just what's in pink.
Yeah.
So no change within this pink hatch. It is currently 64. They're proposing to leave it at 64, but they're saying expand that 64-foot height limitation or height limitation to this area east of downtown, east of Main Street.
Basically take that in and make it part of that pink cap. It's not.
That's right.
No.
That's right.
Yep.
And then everything else in this kind of downtown study area would be 40 feet. So
I think there's places in the 40 that could be higher than 3. Especially since we've talked about like a 3-story building that's middle level apartments. It doesn't really turn enough revenue to be worth building.
Same thing with the hotel.
Yeah.
yeah, so I think this is definitely wanting to concentrate that kind of hotel, higher density within this area with an intent that it it's going to be higher costs. The land is more expensive, so you definitely need to be able to get that revenue out of it. But yeah, just curious how this kind of, correlates. I mean, Caroline, some of what you're saying now, it seems like we're on 2 different spectrums. We're talking about going more than 3 stories in some areas and then not wanting to have anything but single family, middle income housing.
Wait, go back to that sticky, that yellow one you were just on. Also, Jamie, can you put a note that this is extremely difficult to do over Zoom? And that we only had it for 2 hours before the meeting.
Yeah, it wasn't in the agenda packet, but I can put that.
But then we were told it was wrong, but then we were told it was
Okay.
right, so.
I think it would be good to just be able to look at it again once to say, here's what we're thinking about. And before it goes on to the next step, because making a design guideline, my personal opinion, is not a good idea. Because if you're trying to fix it so it's easy for zoning to allow certain things, that's kind of the main thing here, is wanting to be able to build buildings on pieces of property that they consider underutilized. And you have to look at how you can position that on that piece of property to get the most bang for your buck. They would like it close to the street, so it gives it a city look, parking in the back, so you're not looking at parking lots and cars. But to put a design guideline, so I hear it a lot. Oh, I want it to look like it looks in Charleston. Well, I ain't been there that much to know what it looks like, but it doesn't look like everything else around you're trying to match. And people that, in my opinion, that are gonna build a building are gonna build it so it's kind of like what the neighborhood is, but they need to be able to use that space. And that's the important part, is the setbacks and the zonings and things like that, I think, as more so than what the city can tell somebody they want their building to look like. like so many ins and outs and colors and all that stuff.
Right, I think,
So I think just for some clarification, design guidelines, I think you're looking at much more to do with form. So yes, Charleston looks different. But a lot of that has to do with architectural character, the materials that are used in the buildings, things of that nature. There are traditional form, which is buildings that make street edge that are adjacent to the sidewalks. Just like you would find in the historic district of 7th Avenue or along Main Street in Hendersonville, that traditional form of urban development is not unique to Charleston or Hendersonville. It is widespread in the hearts of downtowns throughout the country. So I think your design guidelines are going to be, at a minimum, promoting that type of traditional urban development while recognizing and accommodating automobile needs without it being completely oriented towards automobiles. And so we're not getting our historic districts, our local historic districts have design standards. They don't dictate color. And that's where even the greatest level of control is. I think you're looking at a less regulated form of design standards outside of our historic district. So
we're not looking, I think what Chris is concerned about is like, we don't want to do something like Hilton Head where they all are the same color, even the McDonald's, there's no yellow arch, like, that kind of thing, right?
right.
We've always wanted to avoid that. So I think that's
the most regulated area is going to be Main Street and maybe some of our locally designated neighborhoods. So this would be a step down in terms of regulation from that. These areas out around downtown would be a step down from that type of historic preservation design standard. And again, it's going to be mainly focused on form and making sure that there is some compatibility with the types of form that we like if it's going to be something new that's built.
also, I don't think the sticky, that yellow sticky right there that you had just zoomed in on captured exactly what Aaron meant to say. Is that what you meant to say?
No, it's just conversation. We can add to that for sure.
Yes, I think we need to talk about that because I don't think the last sentence in particular was the intended.
Yeah, nor
meaning.
the third one. We shouldn't keep the infrastructure run down. I'm just saying that if nothing
Keep
changed.
the infrastructure run down.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought I heard you say that a couple of times. What do you want that one to be?
You heard him say that a couple of times? I didn't.
I think we should
He's right next to me.
invest in infrastructure. It looks run down right now, but everybody still likes it. Like, I don't want to devalue what we have just for the sake of change, right? Like, I think that's not even how I feel. That's just how literally all of Hendersonville talks. Like, I'm here, like, conservation is a goal, like preservation is important. Like, if growth and development is coming, people don't want it to look and feel different. Like, that's what I'm saying.
The structure to be built up to be able to accommodate that.
The infrastructure, yeah.
Money there.
Yeah, if we're looking to spend money over the next 10 years, what would it realistically look like if we wanted to keep everything the same while still literally investing money into this space?
Now, I think the corporate part is accurate.
Right, if you brought in,
Like, we don't want an Ingalls
yeah,
Center on the upper part of 7th Avenue. That's pretty drastic, but like that is an example. Like, we don't want that. Like, we don't want,
You don't want Optimum?
yeah.
but a commercial center, like, let's just say like a little bit further down 7th where some of it's underutilized, tear all that down and put another grocery store, like strip mall. We don't want that.
Right.
I would rather see 4-story apartment buildings, or something mixed use, than that. So, and then there's a whole thing about not like, oh, we do definitely want this, or we don't definitely want this, like a rather or type of situation, like we'd rather have this or this versus something like that. So, I mean, I'm literally like just now getting my head wrapped around what's happening here. Don't ask me why it took me that long, but
Thing is, the way it is, we can't regulate that.
That's,
yeah, I
that's the
can tell
thing.
you, I know why.
We can't regulate what somebody's gonna put there.
And we shouldn't, like, if we're talking about what should we do going forward, if we're talking about form. It shouldn't look like an HOA. We don't want it whitewashed and everything exactly the same. There should be freedom given to the individual property owners to fit in with the neighborhood however they see fit. And if it's a bad fit, it won't work. And if it's a good fit, great.
So that is something that this board has talked about for a while now, particularly about 7th Avenue. And like we've had a lot of conversations back and forth on like what if a building has to get torn down on 7th Avenue, as what just happened, and we can't have that reliant if we have a style that we'd like it to be somewhat like the historic style of the buildings close to the street, type of materials, things like that. If we don't have anything in place to regulate it, it could be like, you know, a Dollar General going up on the street.
Right, so
Exactly what
we're
you guys
regulating
just, what you guys just said you don't want is what would go if, because it's not, the developer is not gonna come in and say what fits in with this neighborhood. I'm gonna do that.
Well, Matthew, if, like the building that got tore down, would it be possible to build that building back exactly in the same spot as it was as everything sits today? Or do you need to be able to change the zoning where you can build it right back up on the street and right next to the existing building? I
Yeah,
guess
so
that's my question.
zoning would have to change, but then so that's one component, right? So no, the zoning would not allow that back today. And then I think what we're saying is going that next step to say, hey, if you're going to build in this area of Hendersonville that is so well loved, you need to match the character. And so we've identified these elements of design that you need to incorporate to be compatible with this district. So what I'm hearing is there's a little bit of like things that are opposed to one another.
Yeah.
Love for the district and the way it is, but then, saying we don't want any, regulations, or we don't want any change, but if it is going to change, we don't want.
Conservation doesn't mean do nothing, right? It means how do we actively, what can we actively do to maintain what we already have?
See, that's where they would have to do some change in it to be
I think
able
we're
to build
all
that
on the
back
same.
like it was.
Those goals are reflective of.
And it
Those
does.
goals are reflective of the goals of the.
Yeah, that's what we want to
downtown
avoid, yeah. So the choices we make would be avoiding things that would drastically change the district. If we're looking at zoning rules, we don't want to do something that would enable a CVS or someone to just drop, hey, here's $10 million and now I'm here.
But
That's what can, literally someone could build a CVS
Yeah.
today on 7th Avenue and it'd be all parking lot in the front, building
Yeah.
set back from the road. There's nothing that would, and don't take it the wrong way. I'm not saying that if we adopt the comp plan and these design standards that we would be able to stop that, but at least that CVS would have to be conforming with the district, with the standards established for the district. So I feel like we're all kind of moving in the right direction, the same direction. I'm not sure that we understand that, but
So that's why I asked the question, what do you want from us? I mean, you just like, here's the stuff and yeah, it's fine, but we don't really understand it. And I mean, are we supposed to tell you what we definitely don't want? Or, I mean, I think you already know that. Like, I think if Matt Manley took his own plan of what it should be, you'd probably do a pretty darn good job, because I do think we're all on the same page here. So I just don't really understand what exactly you're looking for from us. Like, Chris is not saying no regulations. Chris is saying as like maybe
gotta make it. I'm looking at it from a couple of this. I understand somebody couldn't go build that building back and Matthew have the okay to say you can put it back there without them doing something to say they can change the zoning. And I think we all agree that the zoning would need to be changed to allow what's there today to continue to be built there today, because it won't work as it stands, I don't think. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is the making it be like the general character of what's around it and that kind of stuff. You couldn't go put up a pole barn on an underutilized piece of property because that just wouldn't fit in that spot. But to give these guys some direction or some whatever, I think that's what we all got to get on the same page, sort of. I think we're all over, kind of saying the same thing, but not saying the same thing, or thinking the same thing, but not saying it right or something.
I think it comes back to something we've been talking about for a year and a half or longer, and it's that 7th district. We want design standards, right, that are within the character of the district. And I think that goes to the other 2 districts that Matthews, laid out. Each one is gonna have some nuances in terms of keeping the character of that district, right, within the design standards, however tight or lax those may end up being, or need to be. And because it's gotta work, I don't know what the chicken and the egg is with zoning, right?
So,
Because, a developer comes in and wants to do something, they want a zoning change, or does the guide drive zoning change before? That's a whole nother discussion.
So I think,
oh,
I want to say some stuff. I don't think height at 6 stories is going to blow this. I think it needs
Say that again.
to,
Sorry,
yes.
say it again.
I don't think height at even, let's just say 6 stories, I'm going big on that. Like down 7th, some would blow the character of the district. I think it is the way it looks and how it functions. I think a CVS, an Ingalls would change the very character of the district. I think pretty much everybody agrees with that. Yes, no, I think now small manufacturing that can be inside an old historic warehouse, cool. Building a new concrete sided building that's cheap, or metal, metal sided building like a 4 slab and put, maybe not heated one of those, not good for the district. I think we know that. I think you know that, Matt. How you do the regulations on the zoning is your job to figure out to preserve the character of the district. We don't have enough education to sit here and tell you, do, this specific thing and not the specific thing. That's in the details. I don't even know why like rural residential hobby farm is presented here. That's a cool image. Looks very cool. Does anyone in their right mind think any of that belongs in any of this highlighted area here? I don't think so. I don't even think there is one. So like, why is that here?
So,
So,
hey, Matt, I'm in here too.
Okay, yeah.
I'll offer a little bit. So just to answer the last question. The character districts that are in there are for the entire future land use map. So that includes all of the area that the city is applying our future land use to. So that includes areas west of downtown. It includes areas east of 26 out on Howard Gap Road. So there are parts of the district or parts of the future land use map that are inclusive of places that currently have a much more rural character. The focus areas are designed to sort of zoom in and you know, to get from you all when we were looking at these two is kind of a conversation, which is what we're having. It's good. We're getting the kind of feedback that we need about what, you know, we're getting a little bit into the look and feel, and we're getting into the use. You know, some of the things that would come out of design standards would be things like, well, we don't want buildings with, you know, what I'm hearing is relatively small footprint buildings, potentially taller in terms of stories. At the end of the day, we can't say no to CVS. What we can say no to is CVS's standard 25,000 square foot, single story, steel frame, steel sided, you know, pharmacy. But if they fit into our 5,000 square foot minimum 2-story brick sided, you know, multiple setback type of requirements, then they get to go there. So when we're talking to you all about what's the character of the district, we understand that's kind of what you're thinking about. You're assigning sort of the corporate entity and the corporate entity brand, right? All of these brands intentionally have a look and feel that they use. Most of the time and in most situations, they are not, after we apply these design standards, going to choose to come into 7th Avenue. What's going to choose to come in is a developer who wants to do a couple stories of residential and maybe some sort of retail or commercial on the first floor. But I think what we're hearing is what we need to hear. The levers that we have as it relates to zoning, we start with this. We say, what is that big picture look? What's the character that we're looking for? Where there are vacant buildings, where there are vacant lots, what if there were not? Is that something that we're comfortable with? And then once we say, yes, we are comfortable with those lots infilling, because, you know, over time and with additional investment in the district, there will be a desire and a demand for that to happen. And we hope that it does, right? I mean, at the end of the day, cities, you know, tend to grow in little chunks of time, or fall apart in little chunks of time. They don't sort of stay stagnant. Nothing in the world, right? First law of physics. Nothing stays as it is. It's always in motion. So, you know, I think all that to say, I think what you all have said thus far does kind of draw in. There's a little bit of differentiation in terms of just what the size of the box should be. But those are the kinds of things we're trying to get at. And, you know, for instance, if there was a desire not to have anything, you know, but single family homes, you know, in areas immediately adjacent to 7th Avenue or in the downtown area, in this general study area, we would need to know that, because from a zoning perspective and from an economic development perspective, from a community development perspective, I would think that on some of our vacant and underutilized parcels, we'd want to be allowing more density than that. If for no other reason than to try to tackle our affordable housing challenges, right? So where are the people that are going to work in downtown and in our community going to live at the end of the day? It sure would be nice if they could live in and around downtown. And
So like single family on the west side and on the east side, higher density, because.
Hey,
Yes.
Matt, can you move to the future land use map overall, maybe? If we've got some of that. So you can see here, you know, just kind of as a way to think about this, you know, you can see downtown in the red, right? So that's going to be your highest intensity mixed use development. This is, you know, currently this single family neighborhood has apartment buildings in it. It has 3- and 4-story multi-unit apartment buildings sort of dotted throughout that district. And it has duplexes. None of what's in this district today could be built there today.
Could be built there today.
Except for a single family house. And 60% of the lots in this district don't meet the minimum standard required by the current zoning. So what we're saying is, you like this district, but you can't build it. You can't create what you already have.
What could we change so we could build that?
So but I think we like the two, like duplexes, 4 apartments, but I don't think anybody would like to see another development like they put on Fifth Avenue, which is like right on the edge of the county city. I think it's actually or is it in the city?
That's all single family.
Yeah, but I don't think we want a development like that. If somebody wants to build a one-off home, I mean, I'm just saying what would be optimal, but I don't know if it's possible. I understand it might not be possible.
I mean, that's a single family development under
Okay.
50 units. There's not I mean, we can say how we want that.
Wouldn't it be ugly if all the avenues looked like that and we had no historic character of all the houses? That's what I'm saying.
Understood.
Okay, that's all I needed.
The people building duplexes on their own property,
Yeah.
we want more of that.
So here's the thing, right? We all love how the houses that were built in the 1920s and 30s and 40s look. But they don't get built like that anymore. And neither does any commercial construction. So I understand everything that everybody's saying. New construction doesn't look like old construction. Materials that are being used, the techniques, all of that stuff is different. We don't love D.R. Horton, but D.R. Horton is building houses right now. So for zoning, we don't get to say, oh, you're D.R. Horton, sorry. We're not gonna let you build single family homes in our neighborhood. We get to say, this parcel is zoned for single family, we require this amount of open space, we require that your roads and your sewer and your water are like this.
In that space is room to enable what we like and
There is.
encourage what we don't like.
There absolutely is, and we have to do that. And I think that's, you know, what I wanna get at is like this is a 3-story. Here, Matt, stop moving for a second. Slide that down just a little bit, the live work unit, right? So this is a new urbanist 3-story development. It's got retail on the first floor, it's residential on the 2nd and 3rd floor, right? It's mixed use, there's architectural character to it. It looks new, I know it does, I know that looks like new construction. But that's the kind of thing that we could say, hey, we want it to look like this and maybe not like, I don't know.
I think that would be fine. I do, on the east side and down 7th, I think lining 7th even, this would be fine. And I think that the mixed use, now this is my opinion, so if people don't like it, say mixed use adjacent even, but these are only 2 stories, they could be 3 stories, so you could have 2 levels of apartments up top.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I think multi-tenant shopping, no. Commercial, no. I think we're already getting a neighborhood center, apartments and condominiums. Fine, like even if we saw like 5-story apartment buildings and a hotel that's 6 on 7th with the buildings that look, no? With the buildings that they look fine, huh?
But the
I go
thing is,
down on anything
as
that.
we're moving this forward, I think none of that can happen until they take that to the next step and decide to say, this is the zone that we're looking for, because right now, none of that can happen.
And there's not a list of things of like, this is Hendersonville, Tiffany, this is
Yeah.
like, and there's not gonna be, we shouldn't try to do that. We should make decisions that leave it open, that let people do what they wanna do. But limit kind of corporate influences that's gonna oppress what people wanna do, right?
There are things, and part of this is in my mind because I've gone through it many times. No matter where you build in Hendersonville, Asheville, Park, they tell you how it has to look and how it has to be. And they make it in general to match the character or a character that they are trying to form a new zoning district by. So you can't just go throw up a plain Jane old building like we're talking about, but right now you gotta be able to start with the ground and the approval and make that to where you're allowed to even do it. Right now, that's not. Just like the west side and the 5th Avenue area that he's saying, that's a non-conforming neighborhood in today's standards. But some of that has to get changed to make it conform or conform more. There are big yards and maybe somebody wants to put a smaller structure on there and have a smaller house or something within their big yard, but they can't do that now until they are able to do something.
And just,
I think
It's just.
Jamie's got something.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, Jamie.
Jamie,
So just so we can kind of move along, it seems like right now we've just got a lot of information and can't necessarily figure out how to best answer the questions. And so,
I don't even know what the
Two-
questions are, actually.
yeah, that's what I'm getting at. And so
Okay.
like, Matt and Lou, I think that probably just a couple things, it'll finish my thought. I think what we probably need is like when they have a more firmed up design standards and guidelines for the board to review, that might be a more productive conversation of saying like, yes, I like this. No, I don't like that. And so then that way it can kind of almost just go through a list of yay, nay, switch it around kind of thing. Does that seem like that would be a good way between Lou and Matt and the comp plan team and the board, does that seem like a easier way to move forward in the conversation?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I know we feel like maybe we were talking past each other a little bit, but I know that I was listening, excuse me, and hearing a lot of good feedback. I think, Jamie, to your point, yeah, what will probably be beneficial is sort of a broader discussion of like, maybe let's just start with what does the box look like? What's the footprint? How tall is it? How far is it set back? So some of those design standards that you can more concretely react to as it relates to where things are happening on 7th. And then I know there's difference of opinions even on those items, but getting to, you know, a little more consensus on those broad features would let our consultants sort of work towards the direction that they need to.
I would agree that some consensus building would be beneficial. And I agree that, you know, some of the feedback that we've heard is exactly like we have to hear from you guys. You guys are the community. And this is based on your feedback. Caroline, I do appreciate you granting me the magic wand to design the city how I see fit.
Well, that's what I was gonna say,
I'm
a couple things. Like when I said I'd be fine with the 6-story buildings lining it, I would rather have that than a bunch of strip malls. So like, if that's what, just,
But the bottom 3 floors have to be parking.
well, just, yeah, there's no, I mean, just, I was going for extremes, but yes, but Matt and Lou, even though I might sometimes not agree with you on some things, I do actually inherently trust your opinions and your thoughts on stuff. I think you're both pretty darn intelligent people. You're some of my favorite people to talk to. And I know that your tastes and your skills can get this right. That's kind of why I'm like, why are we here? Why aren't you like telling us what you think would be glorious? And we're going, yeah, you got it. Because I do think you both know what we would want. I mean, what we would want. Or what our taste would lean towards, basically. So.
Well, I think that's been good feedback. Jamie, I don't know exactly what else you have on for today. Yeah.
Can I make one more comment? I heard this a couple times, kind of the chicken or the egg. And then Chris, you made a couple of points about getting the zoning right. You were really driving that home. And so just as a broad comment, that is where all this is going, right? We're developing this comprehensive plan with character areas for the entire city. We're doing a zoom in on the downtown area. And then the idea is to then, okay, now we've got a vision for this. We're going to go implement it. And then that's where we take the next step over the next year or two and develop the zoning that matches the vision. And so we get to that point that you're talking about, Chris. So just so everybody knows kind of like the long game here, that's where we're headed. So thank you all for your time. Sorry it took so long, Jamie. But we'll follow back up to you guys and make sure we're getting that next level of feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
How did the brewery shelter get so close to the street then? If you had to have a 30-foot setback.
The zoning districts, I think, are actually different
Oh,
for those properties. Seventh zoning is split. So properties, yeah, I'd have to look at it in
Which
specifically. When they rebuilt when they built the Gillian Brewery, which is zero setback, it's right to the street front. But I think it's maybe under the local historic or under the National Register District. There may be something, I can't remember. I'd have to dig. I know there's that property and the couple properties in that top block.
It's CMU.
Differently.
Yeah, it's CMU and then at Locust, it changes to C2.
C2. Yeah, so it's two different zoning districts.
All right.
And I hate to say this,
We'll-
but I have to go to.
Oh, we need you. Okay.
Gaffney.
Rules of procedure updates.
So there's just a couple of things that we do need to clean up. Dakota, if you can move down to line B or section B for the agenda, or before I do this, do we need to move anything around because people have to leave?
So I know I'm here for the streetscape update in particular. I need to probably go. Also, I have kids who need to be
Give us the
a babysitter. Well, the streetscape update is that primarily what we're working on with Jamie and the contractor, just in terms of communication around what's happening on 7th during any given 2-week period. So the primary focus there is going to be on providing consistent 2-week updates with timelines for what's happening over those foregoing 2-week. And the reason or where that came from, and Jamie, I know most recently did one of these, came from a conversation with our internal team, with our engineering team, and with Harrison about what was effective in the past, what was effective when we were on Main Street, and what might be effective moving forward with 7th. And it's also the most effective way for us to avoid playing telephone, because the contractor is out there every day. And in a lot of cases is talking with individual property owners or folks on the street, and we're not able to stay abreast of all of those conversations. We're also not on the street, and so not aware of the day-to-day kind of activities that are happening. Chris Connard, who's our construction inspection manager, is out there pretty regularly. And so internally, we'll be meeting with engineering and with Chris so that we're getting updates on what's happening on the street. This week, Harper had a larger meeting internally, and I think they met with DOT yesterday. I'm still working with Brendan to get updates on what came out of that meeting. But basically the 2-week timeframe window and kind of nature of construction that we provided, or that Jamie provided most recently, is the most accurate information that we have. So with that said, I know we, had kind of got going and had 30 or 45 days of construction and not a lot of updates. The goal is to provide those more regularly moving forward.
So I would like to have that report include a Gantt chart, right? That I for one could read. With milestones, and it doesn't have to be detailed, don't expect that, but it should have critical milestones on it. And show, if the projection is gonna change, gonna move something forward, because That's the only crystal ball we have to determine how much more blood I'm gonna leave on the sidewalk.
Sure, yeah,
And it's a lot.
yeah.
So we're pretty perturbed at the lack of communication. And then the sense that I was just there today.
Mhm.
And we're supposed to have traffic in, I'll say 2 to 4 weeks, because nobody's told us what that benchmark date is.
Mhm.
But, I want Harper to hang it up here on a signpost and say, if it's the 15th of May and we're gonna have one lane open, or we're gonna have two, there should be some detail. Jamie's report was great,
Mhm.
but it didn't tell me anything that I really wanted to know.
Mhm.
And a Gantt chart would be super helpful for us to look forward. I have advertising budgets that I'm not gonna utilize,
Mhm.
right? If I'm gonna stay closed until July or August. And right now, we don't know.
Mhm.
And some of the other folks are, brave enough and have the opportunity to stay open. I could put a cot in there and never see a face. So we're not doing it, but we need some more substantial information
Okay.
from them. And it doesn't take much. I mean, that's
Yeah,
this is what I used to do, so.
No, I understand. I think, I'm not gonna make any excuses one way or the other with that. There, is that conversation ongoing. I was trying to pin some of those things down. It was one of the reasons that, Harper met, internally at the beginning of the week, was to work on getting us a better sense of some of those things. Not an excuse for them at all, but a lot of their work and this type of work impinges on other entities, most notably Duke and NCDOT. So they've been hesitant to give those, we have a Gantt chart. It's very involved. It would need to be simplified dramatically to provide you all with any kind of useful information. In addition, it doesn't really tell you, what I think you want to know, which is, when will this sidewalk be accessible? When will this part of the road be accessible? It talks about what they're doing, but that has to be translated by a construction.
And bad news is just as helpful.
Sure.
As good news.
Oh, I understand that. Yeah, no, I understand. I think so that was kind of our feedback, was how do we, simplify this into the kind of information that we could share that's actually helpful. And we talked specifically about the desire to understand which parts would be accessible and when work would be going on ongoing on sidewalks. And as it related to the road opening. So I hope that moving forward, we're working towards some of that. Certainly Jamie and I's interest in doing that. And I hope to have more information as we move forward. I know that's a pretty dissatisfying answer, but we were real intentional and pretty straightforward about what we were looking for with Harper when we met with them. And streetscapes are like this. It was like this when we did Main Street too. It's not a parking garage, it's not a building. So it just has a lot more moving pieces. And they're real hesitant to pin themselves to anything. So that said, I hear what you're saying, Phil. Any other questions about any of that? I know I was out there the other day and it's a very small section, but there is a section of sidewalk in, and it's exciting to see just that small section because it's big. And there's going to be just a whole new feel out there as we move forward. The next period of time will be painful, but it's pretty exciting to see it actually happening. So excited about that part, as I know all of you all are too. So
Lou, the comp plan really is gonna proceed a relook at zoning, is that?
Yes, so I have requested in the CIP money to hire a consultant to rewrite the comprehensive, or to rewrite the zoning ordinance. So we've been telling council kind of from the outset of the comp plan, hey, we need to update the comp plan, but on the back end of the comp plan, the next big effort will be rewriting the zoning ordinance. I don't really want to do one and not the other, because the comp plan we currently have was never, it never led to a rewrite of the zoning ordinance. So I am very often, running into situations, whether it's with rezoning or new development or things like that, where an idea makes a ton of sense based on what you see in the comp plan, but then in terms of the zoning that's on the ground, it's impossible to do, or it requires a rezoning, which is really difficult no matter when and where you do it. So we're really looking to say, okay, this is the vision, and now we're going to align the legal standards that guide development with that. And for staff, and in terms of, driving development, kind of the chicken and the egg conversation, my feeling is if the zoning ordinance is set up to achieve what's in the vision, what's in the comp plan, then it's a lot easier for me to have a conversation with a developer who comes in and says, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. I can say, well, you can't do that here, but it's a great idea for this location. So you need to find property in this location. Don't come in and ask me to rezone a parcel that doesn't align with the vision for that. So if CVS, for example, comes in and says, hey, we want to do one of our branded developments. Hey, Spartanburg Highway or 64 is a great location. That's where our community envisions these kinds of uses going. Versus, hey, I've got a boutique retailer and I want to put them in somewhere. Well, that maybe is a different location for you. So
If someone was gonna replace the building that we've lost on 7,
yes.
is there a way to accommodate that 0 setback now?
We'd have to rezone the parcel. Or do a CZD. You have to rezone it. As it currently stands, we would have to rezone it. We'll do that. We'll help the building owner or the property owner do that if, because I mean, from a staff perspective, we would say, no, we do not want you to put that 30 feet. Number one, it wouldn't work. The depth of the lot's probably only 100 feet. Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, we would bring that one forward. We don't do staff recommendations, but that would come with the strongest wording that we could provide. So.
If that situation came up, can the downtown board provide a recommendation or?
I mean, we could have you throw in, I'll let you know when it comes to the planning board. Rezonings take long enough in terms of the administrative review and the board process. I wouldn't want to throw another board into the mix, but I'm happy to get the informal recommendation or let you all know to come in and say your piece about encouraging that. Or you all could make a broad statement about that as it relates to 7th until we have done the rezoning. Setback's an easy enough thing to speak to. Yeah, that would require work at this point, would require rezoning. Which is what we want to get away from, right? I do not want to have to do a rezoning to do the right thing. We want to have.
No, it would be better than doing the wrong thing.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right. If there's nothing else on the streetscape, I guess, Caroline, are we good with moving ahead on the rules and board updates?
I'm fine with it. I mean, I don't think we have a lot of time
what we could do if you want is just have that so people can read through it. You've got it in front of you.
I don't know. I think we should keep going because
just keep going through the agenda.
happen like now.
Yeah. Okay. So what I've got in the board, rules of procedure updates, this part's pretty straightforward for whatever reason, whenever we added or we adopted the downtown board, some of the staggering was just where you can see here where it was pretty heavy on people expiring in 2026. And so I went through just to try to even out the terms. And this could probably just be as new members are added on, or as people roll off. I haven't spoken with Jill, the city clerk, or the city attorney on this, but I wanted to run this by y'all first.
So the ones expiring June 2026, if you switch these, move to expiring 2027, if you switch these two, that would mean that would be 5 in 2027.
Yes.
Okay, so it'd be like 4, 5, and 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Dakota, can you scroll down? Okay, so before we go into the other part, are there any other questions on the terms? Okay. The other part that that we wanted to take a look at and get any feedback on is the membership requirements. So the first one that I have is just that we have a required representative from the Hendersonville Rescue Mission as a non-voting member, but as we all know that representative doesn't tend to show up, and so I'm not sure how we would want to approach that as far as if we did need some type of non-voting standing member from any type of entity.
We don't. I think what we should do is ask to remove that position and to add a position of 5 at-large members.
Okay.
And so then that's 5, 5, that's 15, which is an uneven number, which is what you should have anyway, in case, but like an odd number of voting members in case there's a, even split vote. And then the city council member has to be non-voting.
Yes.
So that would be my recommendation for that.
Okay. And what I'll do is I'll go through all these recommendations, and then at the end I'll reread them. And if we want to make any kind of motion of recommendation, and then I can go forward on that. The other one that I think is challenging for us is that our stakeholder representatives have to be, as it's written currently, business owner or property owner in the either 7th Avenue or Main Street district. And so we run into problems like if they're an employee of the business or a manager of the business, they are taking an at-large seat, whereas they really are, if the business is allowing them to be a representative of the business or the property. I think that would be better as a stakeholder position where it creates some more opportunities for at-large members.
Yes, that was the intention. In fact, now that I'm reading this again, I am not sure. Actually, I know exactly who wrote this. But what you and I and Lou hashed out and our board hashed out in 2020, what we sent as a recommendation to council is not the document sitting in front of me today. So the intention was to have stakeholder mean a representative, an employee of the business, if that was necessary. Like Jerry, for example, like if somebody,
Yeah.
let's see, there's an absentee owner, but like there's a manager, or like Mass General.
Yeah.
You know, what is that? Like, they're all stakeholders. It's a
Maybe you should,
employee owned, huh?
maybe you should err on the side of being more inclusive of people.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the intention.
Yeah.
Anybody who's gonna be here and representing the district or either of the districts all the time should be allowed to do it as a stakeholder. That
Yeah.
also would free up spaces for at-large, which would allow us to have more feedback from other people instead of
Yeah.
taking up a spot that's not necessary for someone who like may not reside in Hendersonville. Jamie, next you have at-large members are defined as persons owning property or residing within the city of Hendersonville or Henderson County, or business owners whose business is located within the city of Hendersonville or Henderson County, which is very interesting because I am a stakeholder position. I own my building now, but when I was appointed to a stakeholder position, which violates this document. So
No,
that also was
hey,
something
so that
that
it,
was
the-
not.
that,
Huh?
no, that's because it's currently written that either who own property within the municipal service district and business owners whose business is located within the municipal service district. So you are a business owner.
But it says at-large members are defined as persons owning property or residing within the city of Hendersonville.
You were both.
And you're not
I'm
an
both.
at-large member. You're a
Or
stakeholder.
business owners whose business is located within the city.
So you're an at-large member. Or I'm sorry, you're a stakeholder member. An at-large member are the people who are not business owners, not property owners. So people,
Yeah, this needs to be changed. But we also need a line that says a stakeholder can fill an at-large position. But they don't have to. I'm sorry, we're hashing this out in front of you guys, but I mean, we have to vote on it. I can't believe that this went through like it did. I can't believe it. Actually, I can because we had a different city clerk then.
well, that's so, yeah, that's why we're doing this now. So,
Yeah.
so to be clear though, so just understanding correctly, so we have 5 stakeholders representing 7th Avenue District, 5 stakeholders representing Main Street Municipal Service District. Of those 5, currently it can be a business owner or a property owner within their respective districts. And what we are saying, it can also be an employee of that
Yes.
business.
Or representative.
Okay. And then an at-large member just has to be a resident of the city of Hendersonville or Henderson County. They can also have a business located in Hendersonville or Henderson County. But you want to add that it could also be a stakeholder. Because I think that would qualify under how that's defined already. Does that?
Well, so here, what about somebody who doesn't live here? I think there's some wordsmithing that needs to be done here.
Do you specifically want to be a stakeholder?
Yeah, what's your goal here?
Otherwise, we could get 7
Stakeholders.
stakeholders and stuff like that, and you know, you can't facilitate that.
Stage a coup.
Or maybe. And I think the intent of.
I'm with 7th.
The at-large is outside of those 2 districts.
Correct.
So
So
if
that
it's-
way it's balanced. So there's, yeah,
right.
even amount of
Okay,
7th,
that's
even amount.
fine then, that's fine.
So are there any changes that you all would like to propose for at-large membership?
Outside of the 2 districts.
So
But-
keeping at-large the same except for asking
I
to,
think, I think they should be, business and or, property owners at a minimum.
Yeah, so it could be just like a residential
You know, not,
or owning or residing within the city or Henderson County.
Just a citizen.
Or, yeah, just a citizen. They need to be a citizen. Well, either a citizen or own property or a business within the county lines.
you know, I don't think a renter would qualify.
Unless they own a business or,
Yeah, right.
well,
So-
it says a renter, though, residing within,
Yeah, I think if they lived in this.
if they lived in the city. There's people that choose to rent, that have rented for forever. I get what you're,
Yet-
but,
There are people who can't afford to
right,
do this right now.
right.
How do you write
and,
that?
and and I think that it's also like we have a lot of volunteers that are involved with a lot of different parts of downtown. So it gives some opportunity for those folks to serve on it. Okay.
Subcommittees and teams.
I've added here that, so we do have people who are not on the downtown board who are on our subcommittees. And so I think we need to add some language, and some of this might have to be wordsmithed when I submit it to the city attorney. And she'll tell us what we can or can't have. But if the board is okay with it, just basically making it okay with how we currently operate, of having members of the community at large also serving as a subcommittee member.
Yeah,
It's basically just codifying what we already do.
we should have some kind of like formal process just for the record,
Yeah.
not to prohibit that, but
Like a vetting process or something?
no, more just like, okay, like, for example, Community Foundation has like lots of subcommittees and committees and things like that. But for someone to join them, they have to have an official ask in the form of a letter from the board chair. So you could say, hey, will you come do this with us? But there has to be some sort of formality, so it's on the books and in a file for organizational purposes. So we really
Yeah.
should be doing that with our subcommittees. So whatever that needs to look like verbiage wise.
Yeah, just more making it, clarifying what we already are doing in a better way. Okay. Yeah, everything else is, the highlighted parts are just parts that I've highlighted that are kind of important things whenever I bring in the new board members.
But it's not for
So-
changes.
No, the highlighted parts that are not red are just really parts that I have to refer back to on things.
Okay. So the other thing with the subcommittees and teams is we should have another section to establish like at least a chair and a vice chair or something like that for the subcommittees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably actually like state meeting law guidance on what you're supposed to do for subcommittees.
Yeah, I'll talk with Angie a little bit, particularly on that, because in some ways, sometimes it might be better for it to be technically subcommittees of the Friends, because they are dealing with money from the Friends, but we can further clarify that.
Can
And
you
so
ask her? Yeah, can you ask her, does this have to be advertised because it's changing? It is changing.
I don't think it has to be advertised, but I do think it has to has to go to council. I don't know if it has to go if it can go as a consent agenda item or not. I'm not entirely sure.
That would be an interesting question. It is non-controversial in nature and routine.
Yeah.
It would be great if it could go on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
So just like the proposed changes and see if it can just go on that.
Yeah. So I think it probably would be good to have a motion. And I'll say what I think it is, and then if y'all are okay with it, someone can say so moved, so that way we're on the same page. So suggested motion to accept the changes as proposed, or to recommend the changes as proposed, as well as removing the rescue mission at large or rescue mission position and changing that to an at-large position. And everything else is in my recommendations already.
Do we have to? Yeah, we guess we should.
I think it probably should be as a recommendation of some sort. If you don't feel like it should be, then I can just
I
say
think,
that there's consensus.
I think it can be to recommend proposed changes to the rules of procedure. It probably has to be for word, actually. But that means that we're just voting on that. That can go in our minutes, but that doesn't have to be what it says when you take it to council.
Yeah, I can just say that the downtown board recommended the changes that we proposed here today or whatever.
Right. So it would be what you said, and then eliminate the position of representative from the Hendersonville Rescue Mission and add an additional at-large member position. You can go back and listen to that
Yeah.
again, right?
Right.
And then just change that or their employee representative, add that language. And okay, and add the clause or their employee representative to Article 4 under membership in the paragraph beginning stakeholder. And that's it, actually, right?
Yeah.
Move to accept.
Is there any discussion? Oh, wait, we need a second. Is there any discussion? Make sure and put that in the minutes too. That there
Was
no-
that Chris that seconded?
No, it was Hank.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. No discussion. Okay.
No discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Sorry. that's
you.
Annoying.
For what it's worth, the rule of procedure refers to teams, not subcommittees.
Well, there's there's probably mixed language in here, Jamie.
It's written as subcommittees and teams in there.
Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. Just a quick, so board member appointments. What do we have? Let me say my thing on that first, and then this is, when we vote on officers for next year, correct?
Yeah, this is just so everybody knows where their positions currently are.
So I am rolling off. Well, I can come back for another 3, but I'm not. Well, so technically I can come back for another 3, but I've already been here for a long time. And I'm gonna take a break. So that means you guys will need a chair and vice chair. Matthew Hickman is also rolling off, he is not re-upping for another 3-year term. Nope. The same thing happened with him. He's technically only been here 1 term, but he was involved for many, many years before. So when we rechartered this in 2020, which is basically what they did with every single advisory board for the city of Hendersonville, they threw out all the old terms because it was so convoluted because it'd been changed a million times over the years and nobody really knew whose positions were where and what years and whatever. And we just started new rather than try to like work that out into the charter because it would have just been extremely messy. So that's why that's like that. Now it's all pretty much fresh in a nice rotation. We just somehow ended up with that weird 2026 thing. Probably the different ways you can add 2 and 1 together, Jamie. So you guys need to think about, and this will be in July, the July meeting, which do we even have one?
We typically in July will have the new members as an orientation. And so we don't typically have a regular meeting in July, and we'll have the regular meeting in August. But they'll start advertising for people to apply for boards and committees probably here in the next month or so.
So when we set the meeting schedule, did we include a July meeting or not?
It's included, but it does say in the adopted schedule that it's new board member orientation.
Okay. So usually in July, we do like a housekeeping type meeting where you vote on officers, go over the meeting schedule, review a bunch of stuff. So that can happen in that July one with the orientation, or can happen in August. Technically, the meetings in the beginning of August that happen before the full board meeting, which is this week following. I mean, you really would need those people before then, in my opinion, but next meeting, we need to talk about how we're gonna do that, who's gonna be chair, who's gonna be vice chair. We gotta have that conversation, or y'all have to have that conversation. Or just think about it. Also, I mean, we will be getting some new members, probably someone whoever would be appointed would probably not be a great choice as chair, just because they haven't done it before. In theory, could be somebody who comes back and who's done it a bunch of times before and would be a great chair. I don't know that, so I don't know if we can vote on officers in June. Did you find that out?
I believe officers are voted at that organizational meeting, so it would be the first meeting of the new board, so either July or August.
So you guys gotta start thinking about that and talking about that. You don't have to talk about it here, but you can.
Yeah, we just wanted to get ahead of it, and just plan for moving forward. And also in the agenda packet, I just have a, this is a board matrix. This is just something that they send us as, a guidance thing from the North Carolina Main Street of just, ways they aren't, the names in there aren't our people. It's just an example. But just kind of looking through, where we might be missing some people. Scroll down a little bit more. Keep scrolling. There. And so it's just kind of a way to see if we've got skills or representation that we might have, which ultimately council appoints members. But if there are holes of skills or types of people that we may feel like we need on the board, I think that they would welcome that information or recommendation. And that's all I have on this, unless there's any other discussion.
The term for the at-large representative of the rescue mission, when does that expire technically? It would be
Every year.
Every year, okay? Okay. We need to switch that.
Yeah, that would be, we'd be able, if we switch that to an at-large member, then that would be able to fit into the people either the rolling off in 2025, or we'd be able to shuffle that around on that agenda item from before now where I had the term expiring updates.
So basically, if we switch that position, we wouldn't need to do the shuffling around in the first thing. Correct?
Yeah, we could add them to the expiring in 2025. Either that or one of the it would be how we adjust the renewal. So probably we'd add one of the expiring, or just shuffle some of the terms around. I'll have to take a look at it,
Okay,
but basically to make it as even as possible for each new year.
so maybe like 2 years would be good.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I think 2 years instead of it renewing. Well, 2 years to begin and then 3 years, just like everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It would just be adding it in to the right class or whatever of the shuffling of the terms.
All right. Do
Okay.
we need to vote on any of these, like the bike things that we just talked about?
Yeah, I've got that in the last part of the agenda item. The community character committee, which is probably most of y'all that are here today. We'd suggested having a vote on these items. So just running through them real briefly. Just to let everyone know, we've got a facade grant that we've awarded for 416 North Main Street. The bike racks, if you
You have the
scroll
picture?
down to the very last page, or the second to last page.
And while you're scrolling the grant, just so everyone knows for whoever wasn't here for that, it is like repointing it is like exactly precisely what the grant is for, and actually was originally for before we switched it. So it is like so inside the parameters, it's not even funny. Like there was barely any discussion on it because it was so straightforward. Just so everybody knows, it wasn't controversial.
Yeah. Dakota scrolled all the way down to the last page. Okay, scroll up.
There we go.
Okay. So the Community Character Committee did talk about some proposals for bike racks. This came from the Public Works Department. In general, the feedback from the community character was they liked the concept of the leaves. We're not going to be getting into necessarily like location at this point in time or specifics of the style, but more of like the idea or the concept of the petals. I say leaves with petals. So that's one item of the Community Character Committee. They did submit, Public Works did submit a couple other options if you scroll down to the next page. But after some thorough discussion, the Community Character Committee came to consensus on the leaf or the petals. I keep saying leaves. So if you scroll back up to that agenda item, Dakota. Keep scrolling.
Oh.
Back up. Yeah. Okay. So if there's any discussion or would like to make any type of recommendation or vote.
You want to, I mean, we have to make a motion on each of these things, basically.
Move the.
Yeah, where it's highlighted.
Accept the recommendations of community character.
Second.
Joe seconds. Phil made the motion. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, are you sure we don't have to approve the grant?
No, because that goes through the Friends.
Oh, okay. All right, the next one is, the four little trees.
Yeah, the tree. So in the agenda packet, you've got the picture of where the tree is. So currently the tree in front of Umi is a cone. So it's a really pretty orange classic tree. A tree just can't survive there in that grate. And so when Public Works, if they follow our streetscape plan and landscaping plan to a T, and so any changes to that, they come to us. And this one is removing the suggestion from the Community Character Committee is to remove both of those trees, or one tree and one cone that are circled in red, just to make it symmetrical, and then filling that in with concrete. And the Community Character Committee had asked to make sure we can try to replant that tree somewhere else. And so we'll make sure to try to do that. But we did have some discussion on that, and so open for any kind of conversation or vote or motion.
Move to accept the recommendation of the community character. Second team.
That was Phil and Joe. Again, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Cool. That's it.
All right. Yep. Last is just events that we've got coming up. No discussion or anything necessarily on that. Just some general updates of other things we got going on, just so y'all know that what all we're working on and what we have happening, events that we are producing and events that have applied for or been approved for downtown. And also just throwing in that we've gotten some, we just got notice earlier this week or end of last week about some TDA grants that we've received, and they've been real supportive of our events downtown, and all of that support helps go into us being able to do more things like the facade grants and things like that. So this is just kind of for awareness on all of that. And that's all I've got. I'm happy to answer any kind of questions on that though.
Move to adjourn.
Still move to adjourn. That's all we need. We don't even need a second or anything like that. Thank you all.
Great.
Thank
Thank-
you. Thank
I
you
know
for the
that felt
time today.
actually
I
a lot longer
appreciate
Than
it.
it was. 2 hours, but.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna get dizzy in his presentation. He was all over that.
It's been that way since day one, so it's been a little confusing. Hard to keep.
I would like to sit on paper.
I know, I have a really hard time on the Zoom.
Those consultants are speak to talk to.
They're really nice people.
But everything they do, it feels like they're super worried about getting an A minus with everything. Some
I
consensus building would be encouraged. Don't pay your shit out. Say it, say what you mean.
Building a new building,
Oh,
so. It's gonna be. Quite a big. Anyway, that.